Welcome to another installment of Supplement Science. And today we're going to be talking about gut health. And that's a huge topic in today's world. A lot of people have problems with digestion and absorption and inflammation. And joining me today, I have Dr. Jordan Sand here, who's going to talk about a unique molecule that's out there and available that could help with some of these issues with gut inflammation. Welcome, Dr. Sand.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Now, I want to just talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the world. There's a lot of stress now in the world. People have, to answer Instagram and Facebook and text messages and WhatsApp and emails, and then they got a job and they got their family and they want to work out, and there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stressors, and it seems like people's digestion has gotten worse and worse over the years, even though we seem to know more and more about nutrition. From your, give us a little background about what you're in research in terms of what your expertise is and how you got involved in actually studying the gut to begin with.
Sure. So a little bit of my background. I got my Ph.D. from the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and then I went and worked with animal health. Most of what animal health is doing is looking at ways to better utilize nutrients, and all of that boils down to gut health and controlling inflammation in the gut. So my entire background after I got my PhD was to look at how we can take more of the food the animals eat and turn it into muscle. And we do that by controlling inflammation. One of the projects I worked on a molecule called SPLA2. All that means is it is an inflammatory protein that's secreted in your gut. When we control that in animals, in over 150 studies, we've demonstrated improvements in weight gain, in how efficiently they use their feed, and in livability. So
let me stop you for a second. Why is that? Why is gut inflammation have some kind of correspondence to how we absorb and assimilate and utilize our food?
Excellent question. Because 70% of your immune system lives in the gut. That is essentially the outside world coming inside your body. And in order to keep you healthy, that's where your immune system resides. So when you talk about inflammation, you're talking about immune system. If we can reduce the amount of inflammation that comes from your immune system being activated, you now have more energy to go to things like muscle growth or to go towards fighting other diseases if you can control it at the gut level. So when we reduce that inflammation, now your nutrients can be partitioned more efficiently to other things because your immune system is going to take those nutrients first. That's number one. And then what will happen is your immune system causes damage. So the second thing your body's going to do is repair the damage. So now you'll have reduced the immune system demand, and you'll have reduced the amount of damage there is. So now there's more energy to do other things.
And I think that's important because the immune system is all made up of protein molecules, obviously. And
yep.
the lining of the gut is made of protein, essentially. So what you're saying is if the immune system is gobbling up all this protein we're eating, and the gut is gobbling up all the protein to repair itself, then there's none left or less left to repair and build muscles, is essentially what you're saying.
That's exactly right. You need to be able to calm that down and make sure you're not using that protein just to fix things that your immune system has destroyed.
Now, why is there all this gut inflammation? Is it the foods we're eating? Is it the stressors of the environment, like I mentioned earlier? Or is it all of the above? I mean, what's causing all this inflammation to begin with?
Well, it's all the things you mentioned right away. Emotional stress will do it. Physical stress, it's well known, and there's scientific papers to back up the fact when you work out hard, you actually have less blood flow to your gut. That causes damage. That causes stress. That releases more of this protein. So now you have more damage to fix more damage to fix, and that's where more of your nutrients are going to go. So if we can control that, then you're going to get more of your more of what you take in is going to go where you want it to go.
Now, another important point to bring up is we know that excessive inflammation is no good to the body, but we do know that the inflammatory response in the muscles that occurs from muscle damage is a signal for the body to repair itself. And so we found is that these systemic anti-inflammatories, like the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, like ibuprofen, are not good for muscle growth because we don't want to reduce all the inflammation. we want to really target the inflammatory responses that are not helping us. I guess one of them being the gut inflammatory response, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So in the way that we're targeting this is toward a protein, and the way we're targeting it cannot cross into circulation. It can't get in your blood flow.
I'm still setting up the story. I haven't hit him with the punchline yet. So you've been studying this whole process essentially, and you realized in your team that you work with that there was something that's causing inflammation in the gut. Now, from what I understand, it's phospholipase. Is that what it is?
It's called secretory phospholipase A2.
Okay,
yes.
Explain the difference between the various phospholipases we see in the body. Because phospholipase, I always thought broke down fats, or helped to break down fats, correct?
And that's exactly what it does. Mm-hmm. So these secretory molecules will go out and they'll break down fats. The fats that these ones tend to break down in your body are in your cell membranes. So what that means is the cells start to break down and they start to die. And so if we can control that, if we can get rid of that enzymatic part of that enzyme, the part that will chew up the fat, right. Now all of a sudden your gut integrity is maintained. Mm-hmm. And so you have way less inflammation and you have way better cellular health, and your gut barrier is maintained, so you don't have to fix that.
How did they figure out that it was this phospholipase? What is it? A what?
Phospholipase A2. It's actually it's actually a component in bee venom. It's a component in snake venom. Mm-hmm. It's widely known in those sorts of arenas to break down cells. Mm-hmm. And so finding out that it was actually secreted in our guts was pretty surprising to us. So we figured if we could control that in your gut, then you wouldn't have these same breakdowns that you see.
Now, how do you find a molecule when you're doing research? I'm always fascinated about how things are discovered. How do you find a molecule that actually binds up this enzyme? Like, what's the process of discovery to find something like that?
Okay, so I make it. I specifically make it. What I do is I find, let's say I want to bind up a protein. Yeah. I take that protein and I actually inject it into, in this case, a chicken. And the chicken will see that as foreign, right. And it will make antibodies to it. Okay. And those antibodies are now useful to me because I can feed them back and bind up that other molecule. Mm-hmm. So this molecule we know that is damaging in these venoms and is secreted in your body, right. I can now specifically target and stop.
And so you take that phospholipase A2 and you put into the chickens?
Mm-hmm. I inject it into their breasts.
Okay. And then you collect from their blood? Is that how you get the
eggs?
From the eggs. Wow.
Oh yeah. So there's 150 milligrams of antibody in every egg you eat. So if you like your eggs runny, you're eating egg antibody.
Nice.
Now, not specifically to this, but when we specifically design it to have that, when you dry down those eggs, they contain some of this antibody. And the chickens are so nice, we don't have to bleed them. It's really humane to do. Well, they'll give us every day. They'll give us 150 milligrams of antibody.
So how do you isolate it out of the egg?
I don't. I just dry down this whole egg.
Oh, so you dry the whole egg out.
I mean, I could isolate it out. That's certainly possible, but I would much rather give you the nutrients that also come with the egg with it.
Right. So what you're putting, so now the product is called Purova. And it basically is a desiccated egg. Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's desiccated egg with it's a desiccated hyperimmune egg that has a specific antibody in it.
Now, how much of this substance, phospholipase, this protein, that blocks the phospholipase A2, how much do you have to take per day of it?
I've been taking it, and I take two of the capsules in the morning and 2 in the evening. I found that if I only took it in the morning, it wasn't nearly as good as if I took it twice a day.
How many milligrams are you getting in there? Because you say each egg produces 150 milligrams, right?
It's 600 milligrams per capsule.
So it's 600 milligrams of whole egg per capsule. So it's 1,200 milligrams of whole egg per day. You're getting a fair amount of antibody in that, probably a milligram or 2.
So you don't need a lot. My point is you don't need a lot of this antibody.
No. To be honest with you, it is a lot of the antibody When you start talking about drugs that are injected, they're in the microgram, nanogram range. You're getting quite a bit, actually. It's
So we're
more
talking
than
about we're talking about a milligram of this stuff you're taking in per day, approximately,
probably, yeah.
which is 1,000 micrograms.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we're basically taking the desiccated. Now I'm almost embarrassed to tell you the story. So you sent me these bottles, right? Because I want to try everything, especially things that I know are good for me. And my wife and I work in my office, and my kids come over at 4 o'clock. My son comes home from school. He's 4 years old. And we look over at the conference table, and there's stuff all over the floor. Not only did they open the bottles, but some of the capsules were broken everywhere. And I smell egg, and it looks like egg. And when I'm cleaning it up, I'm like, this looks like egg in here. And that's exactly what it is what you're telling me, right? So I did a little test. My son opened up all the capsules, so I could guarantee that there's egg in there, dried egg in there. So I started taking it, but I just started it a couple days ago, so I haven't really noticed anything yet. But the point is, though, when you take this twice a day, what's supposed to be happening? You're supposed to be neutralizing this phospholipase A2, but what should you feel from it?
So what I felt is that I just simply feel better. Like general health is improved. If you have any gut issues, those should really start to even out. A lot of people that have taken it have seen improvements in things like blood sugar, for example.
Why?
Why? Because things like diabetes really have a link to gut health and inflammation. Any of these really inflammatory diseases that you have, like, for example, inflammatory bowel disease, it should have a positive effect on that, mainly because it's reducing inflammation. If you can reduce inflammation, you should improve these conditions. Now, I am not saying that it cures anything. I have to say this, it does not cure anything. Right. It is not a fix-all, but it should, as a general health promotant, make things a bit better.
Now, here's a question. We can go and get blood work, and we can get our C-reactive levels checked, which are total body inflammatory markers. Yep. Is there any way to measure that your inflammation has actually gone down from taking this product on blood work?
Sure. I think your C-reactive protein would respond appropriately.
It would. Okay.
So what you're doing currently, you should be able to see probably within a month pretty good improvements.
Mm-hmm. Now, who wouldn't see a result from this? I mean, is there people that might not respond to this, or that might? I mean, how do you know you even need to take the product? That people are going to say to me, Dave, it sounds great, it makes sense, but how do I know I need the product? Maybe I don't have inflammation. Like when I go and get my C-reactive protein checked, because I take a lot of fish oil and I eat a very anti-inflammatory diet, I have very, very low C-reactive protein levels. But that doesn't mean that I don't have gut inflammation. I mean, how would I know? Or how would I know if I need the product?
Well, most of the people that we've had taking it already have gut problems. And those people see pretty good improvements right away. The rest, I honestly didn't think I had gut problems.
Right.
Until I started taking it.
Mm-hmm. What did you notice? What did you notice improvement was?
I noticed it within a week. Like I noticed all of a sudden I didn't have things like heartburn anymore, for example, or acid reflux type stuff. We just didn't have it. So for me, that's some of the things that I have seen. I've heard people talk about how much better they feel right away within days of taking it. So I think that if you have inflammation, you're really going to see an improvement quickly, and maybe you won't. Dave, maybe for you, right, you have such a low inflammatory diet that maybe it won't help you.
Well, I still feel my gut sometimes gets irritated because you know what? I never used caffeine before, and when I got my third kid and I realized I couldn't sleep anymore because there's just not enough hours in the day, I started needing to use some caffeine to stay awake. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do interviews like this. I'd be falling asleep while I was interviewing you. So I noticed that my gut got a little more irritated from using some stimulants. I imagine I know a lot of bodybuilders use and fitness people use these pre-workouts, and they drink energy drinks. I have to imagine that probably irritates the bowel a little bit.
Yeah, they really would. So in your case, if you're feeling gut irritation, it should help. It really should. You should feel better. A lot of people have a lot better bowel function, to lack of a better term. They things move a lot better and it's a lot easier to go.
Right. Now, obviously, we'll pull up the Purova website so people can see the product. Like I said, I'm currently just started using it, so I'm going to give people my feedback as I see. But it makes sense. The science of it really does make sense, and it's pretty interesting how you guys formulated it. Is it possible that there are other inflammatory molecules in the gut that maybe we haven't identified yet, or does this seem to be the predominant one that's there?
I'm sure there's a lot more that we haven't identified yet, but this one seems to be at the head of the cascade. So when you were talking about non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, they work on a protein called COX, cyclooxygenase. It's abbreviated COX-2.
Enzyme, yeah.
Yep, if you take those, that's what it works on. This SPLA2 is about 5 steps up the chain. So if you take that, in your gut you will have far less COX-2. So it would work by reducing the inflammation down that pathway. And what was the question again? I'm sorry.
I don't know, but I don't remember. I like the line you're taking. So now, if you're telling me there's obviously enzyme cascades, in other words, you have phospholipase up here, too, and then you come down and you have the cyclooxygenase enzymes, and then obviously you produce inflammatory, your prostaglandins that produce your inflammation. What's to say? I mean, if they're so high up, why wouldn't they inhibit total body, inflammatory systems, not just the gut inflammatory markers?
Great question, because it's mostly site. It has to be at the site. So where your prostaglandins will be produced, if you had PLA2, the antibody there, it would.
Right.
But since it can't cross into circulation, you're not going to get it. So you're still going to get the inflammation where you want it.
Right. So you're only inhibiting inflammation in the bowel itself, in the intestines themselves.
And that's what makes it unique.
Interesting.
This is what really separates it from other anti-inflammatories you've heard of, such as CLA, for example, conjugated linoleic acid. That's whole body, and that will inhibit prostaglandins. Right. When you look at things like the NSAIDs, that's whole body. But all we're doing here is keeping it selectively to the gut. So everywhere else, you can still have your prostaglandins go up and your signal to your muscle growth.
And it's interesting. Didn't you guys over there in Wisconsin discover CLA?
Yeah, my former boss, Mark Cook, was the man who was on the first patents for CLA, and he made all the discoveries. And it's a really interesting story how he discovered CLA. He was working on a research grant trying to see if you grill your burgers, if you cause more cancer. Right. And through that work, what they found out was there was a fat in the burger that prevented cancer almost completely. And so that's where the discovery of CLA started from. Interesting.
What was the final outcome of the study? Does the burnt charcoal cause cancer?
Oh yeah. So those are called polyaromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs. If you like grilled food, you're eating cancer-causing materials.
Yeah, I don't. I tell people that all the time. They tell me to shut up because they like barbecue. I'm like, I don't eat barbecue because it causes cancer. I've read those articles, that research. Well, now, the CLA. Now, what I was told, a lot of the, I guess you could say, body recomposition studies that were done with the CLA in terms of increasing muscle mass, decreasing body fat, those were really done in animal models, weren't they? Aren't they more applicable to like cows rather than humans?
So the human studies that have been done on CLA were, my favorite study actually is about weight loss. Right. So people put on most of their weight between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So they've done a couple of studies where they started giving people CLA before Thanksgiving and took it away after Christmas. The people on CLA on average gained no weight. The people who didn't take CLA on average put on about 10 pounds. And so when you start talking about body composition, that's where it comes from, because the CLA actually inhibits the enzyme that creates new body fat. Yeah, so, it works in humans though? You think it really does? The study was done in humans. Yeah, but was it more than one study, or is it only one study that they did? There's been a lot of studies, and in fact there's been studies when they looked at butt fat of people in Guatemala, and they looked at how much CLA was in their butt fat, and they correlated it to reductions in heart attacks, of all things. Well, interesting. Huh. So you get CLA every day from grass-fed animals. Right. So if you take the fat out of butter from grass-fed animals, it has CLA, or cheese, or milk, what have you. You can get it that way.
Yeah. It's in a lot of essential fatty acid supplements as well, but it's an interesting story that you guys, I guess in Wisconsin you got a lot of cows out there, so you can do all kinds of studies like that.
We do.
Where do you see the future of this Purova product going in terms of, it seems so simplistic and so obvious and so unnecessary to take it to a next level, but is there a next level really in what you would do with it other than just, hey guys, take this product, 2 pills in the morning, 2 pills at night, and you're going to be healthier for that? Is there a way to add it to other things? Do you have any aspirations to do that?
Yeah, certainly. I think it could help a lot of the supplements you're already taking. So if you're taking things like amino acids, this may help deliver more amino acids where you want them to go. So instead of feeding your immune system and fixing all the damage from the inflammation, now it's going to go towards your muscle growth. It's going to take what supplements you're doing, I believe, and take them to the next level.
All right, but you're just saying it's going to increase absorbability and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily have a synergism together. Your product is kind of the fix-it of the gut, and then everything else works better. So you don't necessarily need to combine them in the same supplement, but you're saying if you do, theoretically, the stuff you're taking would be better absorbed because of the fact that it is inhibiting this phospholipase A2 molecule.
That's exactly right. It will take what you're doing and it should make it better.
Well, it sounds fascinating, and like I said, there's the science is there, the study. What if people want to look at some of these research studies that you did on this? Where would be the best place to go check these things out?
Oh, that's a good question. You can Google my name, I think, or we can certainly put some of these up on the Purova website.
Yeah, I think you should put them up on the website, so this way people can go to purova.com, they can see the product if they want to buy it, plus they can go and read the studies, because we have a lot of viewers out there that really love to read the research and to see it for themselves. And like I said, it makes sense. Now, you guys have a patent on this material? Are you guys the only one selling it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have a patent on it. We're the only one selling it. And I actually was one of the developers of it, so I helped create it. And I've been working with the guys at Purova to try and get it out so people can feel better.
That's great. I love it. And like I said, I'm going to give you my feedback in about a month, and then at 2 months to tell you how I feel. Because I am very attuned to my body. Ever since I was a professional, or top-level bodybuilder, wasn't professional, top-level bodybuilder for many years, and I really know how things respond to my body, from protein to fats to carbs. I will notice a difference if there is a difference to be made, and I will report that to my viewers. I also would like to give it to some people that have really serious gut problems, because those people might get a much more pronounced effect, I would think, from it, because they really do need it,
That's exactly right. I would give it to them as soon as you could.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Jordan Sand, and for coming on, educating our community, and for providing a very unique, novel product that doesn't come around very often. In the supplement industry, everyone's a Me Too product. Everyone has creatine, everyone has amino acids, everyone has protein. This is a product that we haven't seen yet, and it sounds very interesting, and I think it has a lot of application to bodybuilding and fitness people alike.
All right, thanks, Dave.
All right, guys, that is going to take us to the end of another episode of RX Supplement and Science. I'm Dave Palumbo for Dr. Jordan Sand. We'll see you next time.